What if the biggest movie star in the world died years ago, and no one knew? What if Hollywood replaced her with something else? Something that looks perfect, sounds perfect, but isn't quite human? A production assistant on the Barbie set saw something impossible. Two Margot Robbies. Same face, same voice, but one was real and one was something else. And when she tried to find out the truth, she learned that some secrets in Hollywood are protected by forces far more powerful than NDAs. Her name was Claire Jensen, 29 years old, and landing a job as a production assistant on the Barbie movie felt like the opportunity of a lifetime. After 5 years of grinding through low-budget indie films and commercial shoots, this was the big leagues. A major studio production, A-list talent, a director with vision, and most importantly, Margot Robbie. Claire had been a fan since Wolf of Wall Street. She'd watched Margot's career trajectory with a mixture of admiration and envy. The way she'd gone from relative unknown to global superstar. The way she commanded every frame she was in. The way she seemed to exist on a different plane of charisma and talent. Working on a film where Margot was not just the star but also the producer felt like a masterclass in professionalism. The Barbie set was massive, sprawling across multiple soundstages in Warner Brothers Studios. Elaborate sets recreated the plastic perfection of Barbie's world. Bright pink houses, convertible cars, a beach that looked too perfect to be real. Everything was saturated color. Everything was designed to be visually overwhelming. Everything was plastic. Claire's job was straightforward. Coordinate between departments, manage schedules, ensure the 100 tiny details that made a production run smoothly were handled. Coffee runs, script revisions, equipment checks, talent coordination. It was unglamorous work, but Claire was good at it. Detail-oriented, efficient, and most importantly, invisible. The best par were the ones nobody noticed until something went wrong. She'd been on set for 3 weeks when she first felt it. That strange, indefinable sensation that something wasn't quite right. IT happened during a break between scenes. Margot was in her trailer, taking a moment before the next setup. Claire was delivering revised script pages when she knocked on the trailer door. "Come in." The voice was unmistakably Margot's. Australian accent, warm tone, friendly. Claire entered and found Margot sitting at the small vanity, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, smiled that famous smile, and thanked Claire for the pages. Nothing unusual, nothing wrong, except Claire felt a chill run down her spine. A primal, instinctive reaction that something was off. Margot looked perfect. Flawless makeup, perfect hair, impeccable costume. But something in her eyes was empty. Not sad or tired, just empty. Like looking at a beautifully painted portrait instead of a living person. Claire dismissed the feeling. She was probably just starstruck, overthinking things, projecting her own insecurities onto someone who existed in a completely different stratosphere of success and beauty. But the feeling didn't go away. Over the next few weeks, Claire began to notice patterns. Some days, Margot was warm, engaging, laughing with the crew, making jokes between takes. Other days, she was distant, mechanical, going through the motions with technical precision but no soul. Claire told herself this was normal. Everyone had good days and bad days. Actors had to conserve their energy for the performance, but it was more than that. On the warm days, Margot would remember crew members' names, ask about their families, make small talk that felt genuine. On the cold days, she'd look at the same people like she'd never seen them before, delivering lines perfectly but with a strange flatness in her eyes, like someone reading from an internal script. Claire mentioned it once to another PA during lunch. "Have you noticed Margot seems different sometimes?" The other PA, a guy named Marcus who'd worked on 3 previous major productions, shrugged. "She's a method actor. Probably just getting into character." Besides, carrying a movie this big? That's intense pressure. Cut her some slack. Claire nodded, but the feeling persisted. Everything changed on a Tuesday night. 6 weeks into production, Claire had stayed late to organize equipment for the next day's shoot. Most of the crew had gone home. The soundstage were quiet, just security guards doing rounds and a few dedicated crew members finishing last-minute tasks. She was crossing between stage 7 and stage 9, arms full of paperwork, when she heard a voice. Margot's voice. Coming from stage 7, which was supposed to be locked and empty for the night. Claire hesitated. She should probably just keep walking. Margot was the producer. If she was working late, that was her business. But curiosity won. Maybe Margot needed something. Maybe Claire could help. She shifted the papers to one arm and quietly opened the door to stage 7. The soundstage was dark except for a single overhead work light illuminating the center. And there, standing in a pool of light, was Margot Robbie. She was wearing street clothes, jeans and a simple t-shirt, and she was talking on her phone, pacing back and forth. "I understand, but you need to give me more time," Margot was saying, her voice tense in a way Claire had never heard before. "I can't just disappear. People will notice. There are contractual obligations, publicity commitments. You can't just..." She stopped, listening to whoever was on the other end. "I don't care what the agreement says. I'm not a machine you can switch on and off. I have a life. I have..." Claire stood frozen, feeling like she was intruding on something deeply private. She should leave. She started to back away quietly, but then she heard something that made her blood run cold. Another voice. Margot's voice, coming from behind her. "Excuse me, do you need something?" Claire spun around. Margot Robbie was standing 10 feet away, dressed in her Barbie costume, hair and makeup perfect. Smiling politely, Claire's brain short-circuited. She looked at the Margot behind her on the phone, then at the Margot in front of her in costume. Both identical, both moving, both real. The Margot on the phone stopped mid-sentence, turning toward Claire. Her expression shifted from frustration to shock to something like fear. The Margot in costume tilted her head, and her smile never wavered. "You shouldn't be here." Claire's papers fell from her hands, scattering across the floor. I'm sorry. The Margot on the phone moved first, walking quickly toward Claire. "It's okay. You're okay. Let's just talk for a second." But the Margot in costume moved faster. With inhuman speed, she crossed the distance and placed herself between Claire and the other Margot. Up close, Claire could see it now. The costume Margot's eyes didn't quite track correctly. Her breathing was too regular, too measured. Her skin, while perfect, had a slight sheen that looked more like high-quality silicone than human flesh. "She needs to be contained," the costume Margot said, and her voice had changed. Still Margot's voice, but with no effect, no emotion. Just flat, mechanical precision. "No," the phone Margot said firmly. "She's just an employee. She'll sign an NDA. This doesn't have to be. Protocol dictates. I don't care about protocol." The phone Margot's voice rose, and Claire could hear real fear in it. Human fear. "I'm not letting you do to her what you did to..." She stopped herself, but it was too late. Claire's mind was racing, puzzle pieces clicking together in a picture she couldn't believe but couldn't deny. "What are you?" Claire whispered, staring at the costume Margot. The thing wearing Margot's face smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Claire had ever seen. Perfect teeth, perfect dimensions, but absolutely no warmth. "I am Margot Robbie, actress, producer, public figure. I fulfill all required functions. You're not human. I am as human as I need to be. The real Margot, the one in street clothes, the one with fear in her eyes and tension in her voice, stepped forward. Claire, right? That's your name. Claire nodded, unable to speak. I need you to listen very carefully. What you're seeing right now, it's complicated, but you're not in danger. Not if you just listen and stay calm. There are two of you. Yes. How? The real Margot took a breath, glancing at her artificial duplicate with a look of such profound weariness that it broke Claire's heart. Because I died 4 years ago. I was in a car accident in Los Angeles. A drunk driver, wrong place, wrong time. I died on the way to the hospital. Claire felt like the floor was tilting. But you've been in movies since then. Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, Barbie. No, she has. Margot gestured to the duplicate. The studio had invested hundreds of millions in me. Franchises, contracts, deals that would fall apart if I died. So they found a solution. What kind of solution? The duplicate spoke, its voice returning to that flat, emotionless tone. Biosynthetic replacement. Combination of advanced prosthetics, AI-driven movement protocols, and synthesized tissue. I am designed to be indistinguishable from the original in all public-facing situations. Claire felt like she might throw up. That's impossible. That technology doesn't exist. Officially, no, the real Margot said. But Hollywood has access to things the public doesn't know about. Private research facilities, military-grade technology, innovations that won't be public for decades. When you're protecting billion-dollar investments, you have resources most people can't imagine. But you're here. You're alive. So why do they need? Claire gestured at the duplicate. Margot's expression darkened. Because I'm not supposed to be here. I survived the accident. But barely. I was in a coma for 3 months. By the time I woke up, they'd already created her. Already had her doing press tours, filming reshoots, maintaining my public presence. And when I recovered, they told me the truth. I was legally dead. My identity, my career, my life, it all belonged to the studio now. That's insane. That's Hollywood. Margot's laugh was bitter. They offered me a deal. I could stay dead, live quietly somewhere far away with enough money to never worry, and let her continue being Margot Robbie. Or I could fight them, try to reclaim my identity, and watch them destroy me with lawyers and NDAs and revelations that would make me look insane. But you're here. Because I couldn't let go. This is my life, my career, my face. So we made a compromise. I come to set sometimes, to supervise, to make sure she nodded at the duplicate, stays authentic. And in exchange, I stay quiet. I don't tell anyone. I don't fight the arrangement. Claire looked at the duplicate, which stood perfectly still, watching them with those empty, tracking eyes. And it doesn't mind. I have no preferences, the duplicate said. I fulfill my function. I am Margot Robbie as required by contract and public expectation. Jesus Christ, Claire whispered. The real Margot stepped closer, her voice urgent. You can't tell anyone. Not your friends, not your family, not anyone in the industry. If you do, they'll destroy you. These aren't just studio lawyers. These are people with connections to intelligence agencies, to private military contractors, to organizations that don't officially exist. You'll lose your career, your reputation, possibly your freedom. Why are you telling me this then? Because you saw. And once you've seen, lying to you won't work. Your brain won't accept the contradiction. You'll keep looking, keep questioning, and eventually you'll make noise. So instead, I'm trusting you with the truth. And I'm asking you, begging you, to keep it secret. Claire's mind was racing. Everything she thought she knew about reality had just been shattered. Hollywood magic wasn't just special effects and movie sets. It was artificial humans, corporate conspiracies, technology that shouldn't exist. What happens now? She asked. Now, you go home, Margot said. Tomorrow, you come back to work. You treat her, she nodded at the duplicate, like she's me. You don't mention this to anyone. And you sign a very specific NDA that I'm going to have sent to you first thing in the morning. And if I don't? The duplicate spoke, and its voice sent chills down Claire's spine. Then you become a containment problem. And containment problems are resolved efficiently. Is that a threat? It's a fact, the real Margot said softly. I've seen what happens to people who threaten this secret. They don't get hurt. Nothing that dramatic. They just stop existing in this industry. Their credentials get revoked. Their references mysteriously turn bad. They develop sudden mental health issues that make them unemployable. The machine protects itself. Claire stared at both Margots, the real one with sadness and anger in her eyes, the fake one with nothing but perfect, empty precision. She thought about her career, her dreams, everything she'd worked for. I'll sign, she said quietly. The real Margot's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. But I have questions. I know, but not now. Not here. Tomorrow, during lunch, there's a coffee shop 2 blocks from the studio. Meet me there. I'll answer what I can. The duplicate tilted its head. This violates protocol. I don't care, the real Margot snapped. She deserves some answers. And I need. She trailed off, her voice catching. I need someone to talk to. Someone who knows. Claire nodded slowly, then bent to pick up her scattered papers. Her hands were shaking. When she stood up, the duplicate had moved again, now standing right in front of her, close enough that Claire could see the almost but not quite right texture of its skin. You will maintain discretion, it said, and Claire realized with horror that it wasn't a question or a command. It was a statement of fact, a prediction based on probability analysis. The thing was so certain of human behavior that it didn't even need to threaten. Claire left the soundstage in a daze. She drove home on autopilot, her mind replaying the scene over and over. 2 Margots. One dead but alive. One alive but not human. A conspiracy so massive it bent reality itself. She didn't sleep that night. The next day at work, she watched the duplicate perform. Watched it laugh at jokes with perfect timing. Watched it deliver lines with emotional depth that shouldn't be possible for a machine. Watched it interact with the crew with warmth and charm that felt completely genuine, and she realized, if she hadn't seen them both together, she never would have known. The duplicate was perfect. Too perfect. But only if you were looking for the imperfections. A tea lunch. Claire walked to the coffee shop Margot had mentioned. The real Margot was already there, sitting in a back corner booth, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses despite being indoors. Claire slid into the booth across from her. I have so many questions. I know. I'll answer what I can. How long has this technology existed? Decades. The first successful biosynthetic replacement was in the late 90s. a character actor who died during production of a major franchise film. The studio couldn't afford reshoots, so they innovated. It worked so well they kept doing it. Not often, only when the investment is big enough to justify it. But more than you'd think. Claire felt sick. Who else? I don't know all of them. They compartmentalize the information. But I've heard rumors. A-list actors who had health scares and came back different. Musicians who died of overdoses but somehow recovered. It's not common, but it's not rare either. Why tell me? Why risk this? Margot removed her sunglasses, and Claire could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Because I'm losing my mind. I watch that thing wear my face, live my life, and everyone believes it's me. My friends, my family, they can't tell the difference. Or maybe they can, but they don't want to acknowledge it. And I'm trapped in this half-existence, neither alive nor dead, unable to reclaim what's mine. Why not just disappear? Take the money and leave? I tried. For the first year, I stayed away. Lived in a house they provided in New Zealand. Watched my own movies knowing I wasn't in them. But it was torture. So I made them agree. I could be involved, as a special consultant. I could come to sets, provide input, make sure the duplicate doesn't completely erase who I really am. Does it work? Margot's laugh was hollow. No. It's getting better at being me. Sometimes I watch it and I forget which one is real. It studies me, learns from me, becomes more authentic with every interaction. In a few more years, there won't be any meaningful difference. It will be Margot Robbie, and I'll just be a ghost. Claire reached across the table, surprising herself by taking Margot's hand. I'm sorry. Me too. They sat in silence for a moment, two people bound by a secret too massive to share, too real to deny. What do I do now? Claire asked. You do your job. You keep quiet. And you live with what you know. Margot put her sunglasses back on. Welcome to the real Hollywood, where the biggest stars never die. They just get replaced. Claire went back to work. Signed the NDA, 37 pages of legal language that essentially stated she would lose everything if she ever spoke about what she'd seen. She continued her job, professional and efficient, treating the duplicate Margot exactly as she would treat the real one, but everything had changed. She started noticing things. Patterns. Other actors who moved just a little too perfectly, who never seemed tired despite grueling schedules, whose skin had that almost imperceptible artificial sheen under certain lighting conditions. Were they duplicates too? Or was she just paranoid, seeing monsters where there were only humans? One night, 3 weeks after the revelation, Claire was alone in the production office when her computer pinged with a new email. No subject line, no sender name, just an attachment, a video file. Against every instinct telling her not to, she opened it. The video was grainy, security camera footage. A hospital hallway, date stamped 2019. And there, on a gurney being wheeled past the camera, was Margot Robbie. Unconscious, clearly badly injured, but alive. The next frame showed the same hallway, same angle, 30 minutes later. Another gurney, covered with a sheet. A body bag visible underneath. The video cut to different footage. A private hangar, military style, with a plane bearing no markings. Two figures in hazmat suits wheeling a containment pod into the aircraft. Through the pod's window, Claire could just make out a face dot Margot's face. The video ended with a single line of text. They didn't save her. They harvested her. Used her biological material to perfect the replacement. She died in that hospital. What you met is something else. Claire stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Was this real? Or was it disinformation, designed to make her question even the real Margot she'd met? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Delete the video. Forget what you saw. You're being watched. Claire's hands shook as she deleted the file, cleared her cache, emptied her trash. She looked around the empty office, suddenly aware of every camera, every shadow, every sound. Was the real Margot actually real? Or had that been another layer of the deception, a more sophisticated duplicate designed to seem human, complete with emotional vulnerability and conspiracy theories that made Claire feel like she knew the truth? How many layers deep did this go? The next day on set, both Margots were there. The duplicate in costume, filming a scene. The real one in street clothes, watching from Video Village. Claire watched them both, trying to see something, anything, that would tell her which was which, but they both seemed equally real. Or equally fake. That was the real horror, Claire realized. Not that Hollywood could create perfect artificial humans, but that once you knew they existed, you could never be sure who was real anymore. Reality itself became suspect. Every smile, every laugh, every moment of apparent humanity, it could all be programming. She finished out her contract on Barbie, collected her paycheck, and quietly left the industry. Years later, Claire watches Margot Robbie win awards, give interviews, live what appears to be a full, rich, authentic life. And she wonders, which one won? The human or the machine? Or did it even matter anymore? Because the duplicate was perfect. Too perfect to be anything but real. And maybe that was the point. In Hollywood, perfection was more valuable than humanity. Consistency more important than authenticity. A star who never aged, never had scandals, never broke down under pressure. That was the ultimate product. Claire never told anyone. The NDAs ensured that. But sometimes, late at night, she looks at old photos of Margot from before 2019. Tries to see the difference between then and now. Tries to spot the moment when the real was replaced by the artificial. But she can't. Because the replacement is perfect. And that's the most terrifying thing of all. Not that they can replace us, but that the replacement might be better than we ever were.